All right, guys. Jim and Caleb here. Another Doors to Deals episode coming at you. Mike Magno's on the line here, and Mike's a realtor with Keller Williams, and also does a lot within the investing niche. So we're really excited to have Mike on. And Mike, can you kind of tell us about your background and
Yeah,
help us get to know you a little bit?
yeah, absolutely. So I'm born and raised here in the Northeast Ohio area, and 6 years ago, I decided to get into the real estate industry. Came out of the restaurant business, and if anyone who's worked in that industry knows that's it's not a way to live, especially when you start getting a little bit up there in age. So back in 2016, I decided to throw my hat in the ring and get my real estate license. With the support of my wife and family, so that was great. By 2018, I had sold 40 houses. And in 2020, my wife quit her job and came on full time with me. And we sold 103 units last year in 2021.
Nice. And that was just the two of you?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep.
So 103. So for reference, for people that are listening, 50 units as an individual agent is amazing. So to do that with two agents together.
Yeah. It's, I did 40 1 year by myself, and that was a lot. And, for us to do over 100 units, it was pretty bonkers last year. And we're actually on pace to do probably about 130 this year.
Wow. And then, do you guys have any type of admin support, or is it just?
So we did, and we switched KW offices, and I won't get into all that nuance, but we lost the admin support we had because it was through the brokerage. So we actually just hired a virtual assistant to work with us 40 hours a week. So we're training her as we speak.
Gotcha. I hope that goes really well for you. The VAs can go one way or the other.
Yeah. Well, my wife had taken the brunt and the burden of taking on a lot of our administrative work these last 3 or 4 months as we transitioned. And she was like, I have to do this. I said, I support it 100%. So she actually handled the entire interview process, interviewed like 30 candidates before she settled on the one that we ultimately decided to bring on.
Nice.
So I'm cautiously optimistic about it. I've heard good, I've heard bad, but several agents that I trust all raved about the same service that we went through to hire this person. So we're looking forward to getting that administrative help for sure.
Absolutely.
So help us, scale up some more.
So let's go into 130 houses is kind of the pace. Like, how are you getting all your business? Like, tell me more about kind of what's going on.
Yes. So in 2020 is kind of funny. Everyone, a lot of things happened obviously in the world, right, with COVID and everything. And it was actually a blessing in disguise, at least for us. It enabled my wife was in the restaurant businesses still. And in Ohio, the restaurants were one of the first things that the governor shut down. So she was out of work, but she had gotten her real estate license a few months prior. And she's like, well, what do I do now? And I said, well, you wanted an opportunity to sell real estate. So here you go. And she took her lumps and she sold, I don't know, 5 or 6 houses that first year. So, it was really, it enabled her to get kind of rolling with it. And from there, by the time she was able to go back to work, we were so busy. She's like, what do I do? I go, just quit. You don't have to go back. I don't need you to go back. We were doing well enough. And honestly, it was just going to take away from her doing more business. So
how did that feel, being able to tell her not to go back?
It felt great. I mean, I'll be honest. It's when I first got into this business, I just wanted to replace my income from the restaurant that I managed, right? And it was a decent living, right? I mean, you make $60,000-$70,000 a year, at least in our part of the country. That's a pretty good living. And so to me, it was, I wanted to do that. And that's all I really wanted to do when I first got into real estate. But then, as I got more and more involved and I sold more and more real estate and I talked to more and more top producing agents and just saw so much beyond kind of where you can go in this business. And that's when I was kind of like, wow, I've actually put some real time and energy and effort into this, what can happen, and that's kind of where that all manifested from.
Big things. And that's what KW, that's why I love KW. KW is so much about showing you the possibilities and opportunities in real estate. I love that you got that from KW, because that's what I got too.
Yeah, it's been honestly life-changing. I mean, we had a month in last year in 2021. We grossed more money in a month than I did my last year in the restaurant industry. So it's those types of life. Now, it's not every month, obviously. That just happened to be a really, really large month for us, where we closed like 18 transactions in 1 month.
Nice.
Last summer. Yeah. But, that being said, this business, what I like about it is you wake up every morning, you're basically unemployed, right? And you got to go out and get it. And for those who go out and get it, they do really, really well. And for those who don't go out and get it, they're the 80% or 90%, whatever that number is nowadays, that fall out in the first 12 months. Yep. And that's kind of where I took it. And for me, what the biggest turning point for us was, we were all struggling as real estate agents, as realtors. We're all struggling for the same thing, right? Inventory. We all need that next property to list and sell. And for me, what I enjoyed working with investors. I enjoy helping investors build their portfolios and seeing that through to the end, and then having that person come to me and say, "Hey, Mike, I'm ready to buy the next one. Hey, Mike, I'm ready to buy the next one." I really get juiced up on that. And so to me, my next thought was, well, what's the next best thing to a listing? Well, it's a client that I can help, that I don't have to actually run around constantly and show houses to. Like, I'm trying to think about ways can I create efficiencies but still sell properties. Well, that's when a light bulb went off the one day. And I thought, well, why don't I start really gearing my business towards, I've had some success working with some people out of state. Why don't I just go all in on that? And that's what I did. I started getting a lot more involved online. Obviously Bigger Pockets is the name that everybody goes to, to start with. Facebook, Instagram, I don't do TikTok or anything like that, but I'm too old, but just through those channels, the phone just rings now.
So you're doing a lot of selling rentals to out-of-state buyers?
Yes.
Are you selling those off the market, or are you wholesaling those?
No, it's strictly all on market. I do very little off market. The laws in Ohio are not real wholesale friendly. So it's a really kind of gray area that as an agent, I could potentially get into some trouble. So
that's how Illinois is. Yeah. So we operate in St. Louis and Illinois and Missouri. In Illinois, you are allowed to do one assignment contract a year, or you have to be a licensed real estate agent.
Okay. I wish they would do that here in Ohio.
There's workarounds, but mostly we double close. Everything is we buy it and then we sell the next day.
Yeah. So that's how they circumvent the law here in Ohio. They do assignment contracts. Because the way the law is written, it just says, you cannot act like an agent without a license, because that's what happens, right? Like, a lot of these unsuspecting sellers, they get these mailers from people, they get phone calls, they get text messages, they get barraged, and they truly think that they're talking to an agent or a broker, because the marketing it's pretty muddy. I've had a couple people call me that know me and know that I sell real estate, and they're like, "Hey, who is this?" And I'm like, "Well, it's not really what it appears to be." So it's something that's never going to go away unless they, do a drastic change to the law, like they have the assignment thing. But
absolutely,
I mean, I do a little bit, because here's the thing I tell people, especially in today's real estate environment, if a seller has a really nice property, why would they sell it off market?
Oh yeah, it's definitely the distressed properties is the way the off market sales. So you were talking about selling to people out of state. I think that's a really interesting niche that not is capitalized on in some areas. Like Cleveland and St. Louis, we have that. How would you say you add value? We love talking about value a lot on this podcast, by the way. Yeah. What's one way you add value to those out of state guys that other agents aren't doing, you think?
The value add that I bring is, one, I'm an investor myself. So I understand the game, right? And I don't want to call it a game, but I understand it.
It's a game.
Yeah, a little bit. It's monopoly. It's monopoly in real life, right? I understand it. I speak the language. I know what to look for. I know what matters to investors, right? We don't, myself as an investor, I don't care what the kitchen counter looks like. I don't care what the tile backsplash looks like. I don't really care, right? Is it clean? Is it clean? Is it safe? Is it in a decent area? Will I keep a tenant? Like, those are the things that are important to me. And those are the things that most people that come in from out of state, they don't know, right? Most people I work with have no idea of Cleveland, Ohio. They have no idea of the geography here. So that's where I bring, that's what I bring. I've been here my entire life. I went to high school here. I went to college here. I then decided to stay, back in the early 2000s, and I've built my family and my life here. So that's kind of what that's what we bring is that, and then the network, right, too, because as an investor, you need a network of people, right? So what I always tell people is, if you need whatever it is, I've probably got somebody in my Rolodex that you can call. I've got a couple of local property managers that I partnered up with that handle most of my clients' property management, depending on location, because I do cover a pretty large area when it comes to the geography for my sales territory, whereas property managers are a little bit more narrow on what they'll cover. So I've got 2 or 3 that I feel pretty strongly about that I can refer people to, that depending on where they purchase, that'll be a good fit for them. And then from there, it's what are all those other ancillary things that people will need, whether it's an insurance agent, right? Because most people are going to need it. They're going to need an insurance agent that's licensed in Ohio. They're going to need a great title company, right? So I have some great title contacts here. You're going to need, potentially contractors, depending on the level of distress when you buy a place. Most people I work with don't want to deal with, large scale rehab. So, paint, carpet, lights, the normal kind of tenant turnover type things is what most people, want to do.
My dad always calls those Sherwin-Williams makeovers.
Right.
So Mike, do you have, what percentage of your clients are retail versus like investors?
So my wife and I kind of divided it up. If it's a retail client, I just give it to my wife. And if it's an investor client, I take it. So probably at this point, we're probably 70-30. Probably I do about 70% of the business, and it's investment, and she probably does about 30% of the business on retail. Now, her average sale price is obviously much higher than mine. So it's not 70-30 in that regard, but probably of our clientele mix, it's probably 70-30.
Okay. And then are all the investors out of state, or are they?
So that's where I first started. And now I'm starting to get a lot of traction with people that are local. So that's presenting its own challenge as well, because the model that I've kind of built is based on working behind a desk and not being out. So that's where we've brought on a couple of new agents to join us to help me with local investors as well.
Because a local investor wants to actually go look at it.
Potentially, if a property is vacant or if it's available to be seen, right? I don't know how you guys handle it in your markets, but here, if it's tenant occupied, typically you're not going to gain access until you have an executed contract that's subject to a walkthrough and an inspection. We just, to protect the tenant's rights, we just don't let anybody in the buildings. So. And
then what are your guys' numbers like on a lot of those rentals? Is it like around the 1% rule, or what do you see like rents compared to sale prices?
Yeah, in most of the like C-class neighborhoods where most people are having success here, they're certainly hitting the 1% rule in Cleveland. If you're not, then it's not probably worth even looking at further.
Yep.
Unless you're going into the suburbs, right? And once you get into those A and B areas, you're not. The numbers are going to go much lower. I don't have a ton of people, I'll be honest with you, that look in those areas to invest. They just don't make sense from an investment standpoint, because the prices have just gone up so exponentially, because you've got competition now too from people who want a house hack, right? It's become so in the thoughts and minds of people now.
It's talked about on every major podcast, every forum is house hacking. 10 years ago is amazing. Yeah. That's how I started out in real estate, was house hacking.
So you have people that generally in some of these A and B type zones, these nice suburban areas that normally would not even look at a multifamily property, but that there's such little inventory to work with that people are really opening their eyes. And I mean, there's one not far from me that a friend of mine had listed, who's an agent, and it was in a really nice suburb, Medina, Ohio. And he listed it, and I called him. I'm like, "Hey, man, this is really probably $30,000 or $40,000 over where it should be." And he's like, "I know, the owner just wanted to go with it and see what happens." They ended up with multiple offers. It ended up selling for over asking price, and it was an owner occupant that bought it. So, because I had an investor who actually had an interest in it. We actually made an offer, but we made an offer based on the numbers and not, someone who wanted to live there. So it just, it's tough.
What's the dynamic like working with your wife, and what are some challenges that maybe we could help our audience that, because there might be a couple of people that listen to us that are thinking about that. What would you say are some of the pros, some of the cons, and what are some of the struggles you've had through it?
Yeah. Obviously I'm further along in my career and my knowledge base. And so some of the struggles are, taking the time to give my wife the support that she needs and with questions and things like that. But where my wife has really helped me is she's the master communicator when it comes to dealing with the co-broke agent, right? I have very little patience for a lot of really bad agents. The agents who don't answer their phone, they don't respond to email, their voicemails are full or not even set up. Like those are the challenges that we face. So where I've really leaned on her is she's really good at connecting with agents. And I mean, we get deals done, because she picks up the phone and she's able to connect. And, there's been multiple times where we've negotiated a deal over the phone before we wrote the contract, and then just immediately turn around, took the details back to our client, said, "Hey, this is what they're willing to do. This is what we've already negotiated. It's within the parameters that you set forth for us. We might want to act on it quickly, because if we don't, someone else might swoop in with a better deal." And, so that's where we've had a nice advantage, with two of us, right? Because I might be, I might have to call her and say, "Hey, I might be on an appointment. I might be, doing an inspection or something." And I'll get a call from one of my clients who says, "Hey, this just hit the market. Let's make an, full price offer today." And I'll call her and I'll say, "Hey, can you get a hold of the agent? Can you find out what's going on? Can you find out the rent roll? Can you, get out?" I always generically say, "Can you get the details?" And she knows what that means. And we kind of just take it from there. And, if she can help me, she can start that offer process and we can kind of go from there. So I think that gives us a huge advantage. Like I said, the challenges is obviously being a husband and wife. I mean, it's like 24/7, right? So we don't have that separation from kind of work and home. I mean, I try to shut it down. I've gotten a lot more forceful about it in the last year, where, I tell people up front when they work with me, "Hey, at 7 p.m, the phone goes on do not disturb. So feel free, text me, call me, email me, just leave me a message and I'll get back to you." So that's kind of when family time kicks in. And because you really have to do that in our business. It's tough. It's tough. And, she still responds sometimes later in the evening, and that's her prerogative, right? Like she can do that with her clients. My clients, I've just said, "Hey, this is when I'm available," and it's funny, I'm an early riser. I get up around 5:30. I get our daughter on the bus in the mornings, and then I'm in my office or I'm on the road, and it just kind of goes from there, And then I always make time on Saturdays as well. Sundays is the one extra day that I try to, we try to set aside for us to kind of recharge and then reset for the week. So
I love a couple of things that you said there, and I want to reiterate for the people listening. When he talks about his schedule, do you guys notice that he sets boundaries with his clients? So we talk about this a lot, and I'm not the best at this.
No, I was terrible at it.
This is much more of do as I say, not as I do. And people on our team know this because Caleb is a workaholic. But it is super important to set boundaries with your clients. And we're very much about structuring a schedule around with our agents that we bring on our team is lead generation is 9 to 11. Yep. You never show houses during this time period. Then you have your time to do your inspection responses, your showings, your listing appointments. And if you structure and make people respect your schedule, people are going to respect you and treat you with a lot more respect than how some clients do. And the clients that don't want to do that, you're going to weed them out very quickly. And nobody's desperate to work with you. There's so many buyers.
It's counterintuitive. It's like a opposite. By you setting boundaries as a professional, it makes you more in demand. It makes you more desirable. It makes people want to work with you more, typically.
Right.
And there's a percentage that may fall off, but you don't want to work with them anyway.
They're going to be paid.
I'll be the first one to admit I've gotten very, very, very purposeful in how do I want to, I don't want to come off as brash, but I've just gotten very purposeful in the way that I kind of weed people out quickly now. And, you know, a byproduct of that is the amount of volume that I'm doing, right? The amount of phone calls, inbound calls, and requests that I'm getting every week from people who, you know, so-and-so referred you, so-and-so referred you. You know, I found you on BiggerPockets. I found you on Facebook. I found you here. I found you there. I found your website. You know, so that's where, you know, as an agent, you have to do that, because if you don't, you're going to burn out. You're going to burn out, because the minute you text your client at 1 o'clock in the morning, you've just now opened up Pandora's box for them to text you at 1 o'clock in the morning. It's just the way it is.
I always set people, my working hours are 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. I have certain times I do things during the day. If you call me, I will get back to you at 6 o'clock at night or 7 o'clock, depending on the day.
Yeah. What I do when I first, you know, interact with people and they ask me like how I work, I say, this is how I work. You know, in the mornings, I'm in my office, I'm doing lead gen, lead follow-up. Those are the two most principal things I have to do. Right. And then from there, you know, I block out some time to eat lunch. I respond to emails. In the afternoons, I do more appointments. And then I always tell people like, hey, I always block off an hour in the evening to pound through my emails one more time. I said, I'll get back to you. Now, there are instances where I might be negotiating a deal. And yeah, you know, last night is a great example. I was negotiating a deal and I was on the phone. You know, I took a call after dinner, after we sat down. The guy was texting me and I was like, you know what, I'm just going to call. Let's just get this phone call out of the way. And we talked for like 5 minutes, right, at 8 o'clock. It's not a, you know, but I'm not responding to everyone else, right, that I'm getting interactions with. It was just that particular deal that needed 5 minutes. So,
yep.
Mike, you said, you kind of change the topic a little bit. You said you're an investor yourself. Tell us about your personal portfolio. What do you got?
Yeah. So, you know, my wife and I have some pretty big goals when it comes to investing and the kind of income that we want to generate, you know, down the road, right? You know, for when we kind of take a step back from selling real estate. So we have 6 doors here in Northeast Ohio currently. We have a short-term rental that we just launched in Florida. My wife is actually sitting for the Florida state exam next week. So she's going to be licensed in Florida.
Nice. What part of Florida is your short-term rental?
We're in Cape Coral, so just near Fort Myers, if you're familiar with that southwest side of the state. So yeah, we bought a house down there. That's been an adventure. I want
to hear about that. That's why I brought that up.
Yeah, we bought a house down there. That's been an adventure. I want
to hear about that. That's why I brought that up.
Yeah, so we went down there last April just to look for a place. There's actually an agent in Cleveland that we're friends with who's actually licensed down there as well, and he owns a house in Cape Coral and 2 condos in Fort Myers. So we hooked up with him, and he was gracious enough to help us through that process down there. We ended up buying a place. We closed on it in June.
What'd you pay for it?
We paid $375. Really nice home. It was built in 2019. The only bad thing was it didn't have a pool.
And what'd you have to put? Are you 20% into that deal?
Yeah. So we put 20% down. We bought it as a second home mortgage. So we got 3 1/8.
Nice
for a rate. Yeah. Fannie and Freddie's gotten wise to people using the second home as a investment vehicle now. So those rates are way higher.
You have to be there for 14 days out of the year for
14 days out of the year. Yeah.
Yeah. So to anyone listening, you can do this and Airbnb it out and it'd be a second home. You just have to have 14 days a year that you're down there.
Which I've already been down there 14 days this year.
Yeah, absolutely.
We're going down for spring break here in a couple of weeks. So,
and then you can count the Airbnb income towards your income after 2 years, right?
Yes.
Cool.
Yes. Yeah.
All right. Sorry. Continue. So 375, we put 70 into it.
So we closed in June. I flew back down there, met with a bunch of pool contractors because we obviously, to make an Airbnb in Florida work, you need a pool. We had a guy I thought lined up. I went back in July to sign the contract. He literally disappeared. Just disappeared, ghosted me. And we're talking, $60,000 project, pool, patio, the whole works, and just disappeared. So we were kind of back to the drawing board. We ended up finally signing a contract with a contractor in September, and it was supposed to be done before Thanksgiving so that we could launch, for the holiday season. Because down there, November, December, January, February are kind of the hot, the high season.
You can get a pool put in 2 months in Florida.
Well, he told us 10 weeks is what he told us.
Holy cow. I'm on a waiting list. I'm a year and a half out.
So it ended up, it did not get done until February.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So that's what ended up happening.
And then what did that pool cost? Was you're another 60 into it for the pool?
Yeah. So we, the pool, the patio, the cage, the equipment, the whole shebang, the drawings, we needed new sod because the yard got torn up. I had to have a plumber come out and redo the sprinkler system in the back of the house. We're about 63,000 or so into the pool project and all the ancillary stuff that went with it. And then about 20, because the home was not furnished, obviously.
Yeah, you got to
buy a furnished place. So we're about 22,000 in furnishings as well. So, it's not what most investors would do when purchasing a property down there. They would buy something that's furnished. They'd buy something that has a pool. Now, looking back, it was a great deal because one of my neighbors literally just sold his house for $505 or $510. And his house was actually 15 or 16 years older than ours. So, and it was a similar type of layout. We're
at 525 into it, but
yeah,
good stuff for month. Nice. And so, what's your rent like? Are you renting it now? How many days are you occupied?
So we just, so we had we just had our first guests leave. Actually, they rented from us for 2 weeks. Actually,
2 weeks.
And we were getting, I think $225 a day. So I started off pretty low just to see what we can get. We have guests there right now for a week. We have another set of guests coming after them, and then we're coming down the same day to check in when those guests leave. It's a weekly. So Cape Coral has restrictions. It has to be a minimum of a week.
Gotcha. So with that, what are you expecting your monthly? How many days a month are you expecting to be rented?
So we have another agent friend of ours up here in the Cleveland market who owns a house not 5 minutes from ours, and she has a pretty much 100% vacancy year round. So once again, I don't think we'll be 100% first year. Obviously, we have to establish a presence on the short-term.
You meant 100% occupancy, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
When I talked to her last, she was completely booked through 2022.
So what will you get once you get rolling? Will you get up to $300 a day?
I think potentially, we'll see. I mean, we're going to keep it in the $200 range a night, at least for this first, probably 5 to 6 months until we can get booked up and get some reviews, and get to a super host status.
Yeah, that's important.
Yeah.
So say you're in it. I'm just doing some numbers here because I love to go over numbers for people and stuff like this. So you might be like 80,000 gross income a year, roughly.
Yeah, I'm projecting 60.
60. Okay.
I thought when we bought it conservatively, we would get 60.
Yeah. So I had it at 320 days at 250 a day is 80.
Yep.
This thing is going to make some money. Holy cow. I mean, 2 years, you'll get your investment back out of it. And then,
with the mortgage rates where they are, even with the high taxes down there and the high insurance, I mean, our mortgage is just under $2,000 a month.
Yeah. So
so what are your costs? So that's one thing that, so Ryan and I own like 13 of them, something like that. And the one thing, Caleb, and really everybody listening in, is gross and net. Okay.
Correct. Yeah. Your management
fantastic. Yeah. So what are your management expenses? Like, are you paying a cleaner? Like what's your team?
So I'm managing it. My wife and I are going to manage it remotely.
Okay.
I just wanted to learn that process before I gave away. And the other thing is I met with a few property managers down there who do short-term rentals, and they want like 20 to 25%. And I thought
I've heard up to 30%.
Yeah. So for that kind of money, I'll do it myself. So I did. I hired so the guy who built our pool is also going to do our pool maintenance moving forward. So he comes weekly to, check the chemicals, make any adjustments, keeps that thing up and running. I already have pest control from when I bought the place. I hired a landscaping company when I first bought the place. I hired a cleaner who specializes in short-term rentals in that area. She actually doesn't live far from our place, and I'm passing that cost on to the guest. So our expenses should probably be around $3,000 a month. Once you throw in all the utilities and
4,000 or 5,000 cash flow a month, depending on how you do.
Yeah. Conservatively, I was, when I was underwriting the deal and we were investing all this money into it, I was hoping for $3,000 a month net. $3,000 a month net. We'll get all of our money back in, 3 years, basically.
I'm trying to get Jim to buy some Airbnbs down in Naples with me.
Okay. Yeah. I have family in Naples. My aunt lives in Naples, so
yeah, we do a lot of rentals here in St. Louis, and I want to be in Naples long term. Like that's my retirement right. In Naples.
Yeah. So long term, my wife and I, we want to Florida's on our list, and then we actually Belize. So we went to Belize last year. One of my oldest friends and his wife have a place in Ambergris Caye. In Belize. We went there last year with them, and we just fell in love with it. So we're looking to actually buy a place down there too.
So we interviewed someone a few months ago that she lives in, was it Costa Rica, Jim?
Okay.
Time?
Yep.
And she's Heather O'Brien. She's a big time marketer and a real estate investor. And she lives in Costa Rica full time.
Nice.
I thought it was pretty cool.
Yeah. And the cool thing about, I don't know if I guess it's cool for me. There's no licensure law in Belize, so I can just go down there and just become a real estate agent. So I actually
I hear just craziness around us, what some of the other countries go through on real estate.
Right.
Like all the things we take for granted with the structures that we have, there's like no structure at all. You just kind of have to wing it half the time.
Yeah, there's a broker down there who's actually a KW. He's a KW agent from Michigan, but he has his own brokerage down there on the island. He's been down there 15 years. That I befriended through my friend, and he's kind of giving me the rundown of how it works down there. And he told me whenever we want to come down there and set up shop to hit him up. So him and his son he's been down there like 15, 16 years full time.
Wow.
So yeah, he's been killing it down there. He does mostly commercial stuff down there now, but it's pretty wild. It's pretty wild.
So Mike, kind of like shifting the conversation over here. So I mean, you're on pace for 130 deals a month, a year
for this year. Yeah.
What do you think like the key's been for your growth? Like, because you started out, you did 40 deals in your first 2 years, I think.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I did. So I did 13 deals my first year, 28 my second, and then by my third year, I did 40.
Yeah. So like, what's the key to that? What's the key to that? Like, what's happened?
Yeah, two things for me. One, deciding to really niche down what I wanted to work with, and that was working with investors, building and helping them, bringing value to them, and then helping them build wealth through real estate. Just understanding the power of what you can build with real estate. So that was one thing, because it's what I want to do, and for me to then turn around and help other people, rising tides, right? The kind of thing. So doing that, because it put me in a place where I wanted to be, because I was, as every agent gets frustrated with their retail business, right? Like with crazy buyers who have unrealistic expectations. They don't have money. They want the seller to pay for everything. They, they go buy a car the week of closing, they go charge up a bunch of furniture, they kill deals. I wanted to get away from that. So I think that's first thing for us, for me. And then the second thing is the support and the extra, basically my wife bringing in extra capacity for me to help me do more deals. Like I said, I've had plenty of frustrations with a lot of my, agents I've worked with in the past, and she's helped insulate me from that. And,
getting the right business, not only life partner, right. A business partner now, right?
Yep.
That's hard to find.
So I have a question for you.
Sure.
So this is something that, like, I actually, believe this or not, still continually struggle with this. And I have to constantly, as an entrepreneur, have a internal battle and remind myself of this. So what I'm curious, let me ask you a question as far as niching goes, and then I'll kind of explain the internal battle I go through. What happened when you made that commitment to niching down? What happened to other opportunities outside of that niche? Did like your retail business suffer at all? Did it go down? Like, what happened?
No, that was where I leaned on transitioning that type of client to my wife. Okay. And just being upfront and honest with them. Hey, this is, I've brought my wife on. This is the capacity in which she's going to help me grow our business, and most people understand that. And here's the thing. Are there still some clients that I will continue to work with that are outside of that investment niche? Sure. If that relationship warrants it. But, the further and further I've gotten away from working with any retail buyers and sellers, I then don't really, I'm not bringing in new clients in that side of the business. And if I do, that's where my wife, that's where that transition happens. I just say, hey, this is, my wife runs our retail business. I run our investment business.
So as a solo agent, just so you guys know, you all have the opportunity to do this, whether or not you have a wife or a husband in the industry.
Right.
The highest dollar producing activity you can make is through a referral. You can just have a retail referral partner that you can make 25% on a deal and spend 10 minutes on that opportunity. Right. Yep. So what I find, and what I continue to find, there's a saying that's really powerful: the riches are in the niches. And the more niche down we get, the more money that's made. I've been in masterminds, guys, with leading experts across the nation. And I've been in, I'll go to like a conference or a networking group or whatnot, and I'll hear someone talk to me about their 10 different businesses, and they're really excited about them, and it sounds so amazing. And then I'll get to know the person, and I'll find out, like a couple weeks, a month or so later, that they're dead broke.
Right.
They have the sexiest, the most amazing sounding business ever, and they're not making any money. And then I'll talk to another friend of mine who's, if you ask him what he does, he says he's a landlord. And it's literally, it's kind of like listening to his business models feels like you're watching paint dry. It's really boring to hear that he's a landlord. He's been doing it 30 years. He owns 40 properties free and clear. And his net worth is probably 100 times what this other individual that has all the sexiness, all the exciting ideas and everything like that sounds for. So the riches are in the niches, and like that would be like a really important advice. And the reservation that I continually, the knee jerk is, oh, well, if I do this niche, now all of a sudden I'm going to lose all these other opportunities and I'm not going to make as much money. I'm not going to be able to do as many things. And what have you guys found as far as that? Like, do you echo what I see, or what do you guys think?
No, I'm a numbers guy. So, I mean, the numbers to me, it was the best thing that I've done in my business is I got real focused on what I wanted to do and what I wanted to work in. And it enabled me to be kind of re-energized because I was probably at a point where I was starting to get a little burnout, as a solo agent doing 40 transactions. It's quite a bit, right? Between the paperwork and, just the running around and, just doing everything. So for me to kind of sit back and go, okay, where can I work a little smarter, not harder. And like I said, the other thing too, biggest thing for me was working in the part of the business in real estate that I enjoy the most. And then working with people who also share that same passion that I do for investments. So, and that's kind of where I'm at with it.
And then you get to work with people you like.
Yeah. And then, there's, and it's opened a lot of opportunities. We wouldn't have ever bought that place in Florida had I not gone down that road. Right. And we would have never really thought of it, considered it. And that's where, that's now opened up an opportunity that we see for my wife to get her license down there, because I've been telling all my clients about this, right? Like I had a guy text me the other day. I haven't talked to him in 3 months. He owns 2 duplexes in Cleveland that he bought with me. He texted me. He's like, "Hey, Mike, how's the Airbnb going?" And I was like, "Oh, dude, here's it." I texted him the link on VRBO. I go, "We just launched it, man. Here, thank you for reaching out." And then he told me, he's like, "Yeah, I want to." He goes, I've got some plans for us in Cleveland for 2022. I'll be in touch soon." He wants to start buying again here in Cleveland, and so it was a nice segue. But I've had many of my clients who are in California, for example. I've got one client from California who's purchased 6 properties with me last year, a total of 9 doors, and they're super geeked about the opportunity to do a short-term rental in Florida. That's kind of the other way that they want to go with their business between the long-term rentals we have in Ohio, and then they want to start buying a property like in different places where they want to go.
And then you're going to start selling higher price ranges if you start selling more Airbnbs in Florida with her too.
Yeah, that's don't get me wrong. This business, once again, like I said very early on in the conversation, you can make as much money. There is no cap, right? There's literally no cap on what you can make in this business. It has, blessed me and my family beyond words. That being said, it's a hard business. Like where agents are doing in other markets, they'll sell 25 houses to my 100 and we'll do the same amount of volume. Right. So that's where I had to get a lot more purposeful. That was kind of my thing for 2022. I got a lot more purposeful on the types of investor clients that I'd brought on, because when I first decided to go in that niche, it was, I'll take on anybody. You want to buy a $30,000 house? Sure. I'll bring you on. You want to buy a $50,000 house? Sure. You want to, so I've gotten a lot more purposeful on the type of client that I bring on and the price point that I bring on at this point. Cause there's only so many hours in the day.
Absolutely. What are you guys doing as far as earlier we talked about inventory? Obviously, everybody knows inventory is a problem. What are some things you guys are doing to create more inventory for yourselves?
Honestly, I've started reaching out to my clients that have bought investment properties off me in the last 2 years.
Sphere of influence.
Hey, are you thinking? Because I think I can probably get you $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 more than you paid for it 2 years ago if you're interested. Just planting the seed. And then, I'm looking at some other strategies too. I haven't dug into it deep yet, but I honestly just signed up for PropStream because of the niche that I'm in with the investment business. I want to start trying to source myself direct to people and targeting the neighborhoods, targeting the high equity, landlords, people that, and I'm not going to target the corporate owned ones. I'm going to target actual people owned properties, people that are local landlords that maybe own 2 or 3 properties and, they might not know but this is probably the best time ever for them to cash out. So
this is the best time ever to target tired landlords.
Yeah. So that's,
Jim, wouldn't you agree? The best time in real estate to target tired landlords.
It's certainly an easier conversation when they're going to potentially make money versus a short sale. There's no question about that.
Well, that's where, I think for me, what I'm going to do is target anybody that's on, had at least, owned the property at least 5 years. And then with a certain percentage of equity based on the property, based on the records, and then, go after them, either through a direct mail, pick up the phone and dialing and text message campaigns and things like that. And just seeing what rocks I can turn over. Cause it's super tough. There was a 4-unit property about 6 weeks ago that popped up in a like a B kind of a neighborhood. And I had a guy looking for that exact type of property. The property had 32 offers on it.
Wow. That's we're seeing a lot of that in St. Louis too. 30, 40 offers and $100,000 we're asking.
I've got a KW agent friend in Massachusetts that he actually owns a property here in Cleveland. I'm actually selling for him. And him and I talked on the phone yesterday. He had a distressed property in his area. He had 97 offers.
Yikes.
Holy cow.
I'm like, his name's Jason. I said, Jason, man, why don't you just, at 50, you didn't want to just cut it off at that point?
So on the acquisition side, that's actually a powerful selling point when you're talking to agents. Mm-hmm. Like, hey, send me stuff that you have before it hits the market. Yep. If I can get you your client what they want, you don't have to sift through 97 offers.
Right. It's funny you mentioned that.
You could save a lot of time, potentially even make a buyer's agent commission on my side. I don't care. I just want to ask that.
Right. Yeah. It's funny. My wife actually literally just did that. She's working with a couple that's purchasing here in our market. They happen to be driving down the street and they saw a sign. They called my wife. They're like, hey, can you find out about this property? My wife looks it up. It wasn't in the MLS yet. So she calls the agent and the agent was like, oh yeah, we literally just took that listing. It's going to be up tomorrow. And my wife's like, well, hey, what's the ask? They literally negotiated the deal before it ever even hit the MLS.
Yep. Nice. Love that.
We brought them a full price offer, a quick close. I mean, the inspection's already today. We literally just signed the docs yesterday.
Well, and the thing too is like to understand, I think agents and really investors struggle with this a lot too. They think, well, the only value is price. And like, I'm only serving my client if I give them an extra $5,000 on a contract. Well, terms are way more important than price. Like, for example, if your client has health concerns and getting COVID is a really big deal, having 97 people trample through their house and having 97 offers on it,
right,
that may not be worth an extra 5, 10, whatever thousand that you're going to get from the bidding war. Right. Like the term of convenience and having, like a better handle around like the health situation. Right. That's probably more important. So they can't go on a Disney trip or something this year. They'll have to not go on a vacation because, they didn't make the extra 10 grand, but right. People, it's like you get stuck on it. And I'm like, I've always been an investor first. And it took me like a decade to understand that, where I was always thinking, well, it's gotta be price. It's gotta be price. It's gotta be price. Not always.
What we're seeing a lot of traction in our market too, is from some of these, and agents are doing it now as well. Doing these cash offers, right? Like, hey, sell your house quick and easy. And actually closing on it, not like a wholesaler where they're selling a contract or double closing, but actually buying the property. And I've actually personally I've made a few offers to people when they've brought me in to list their house, and they've said, well, I just want to get rid of it, blah, blah, blah. And I've never bought one yet, but I'll keep firing off offers to people.
I love that. That's what we do. Yeah.
Yeah. As with my fiduciary responsibility, like the last one, once I sat down and showed the guy what he could get for it, if he did these 5 little fixes to the place, he was like, oh, well, I'll just do those fixes then. Okay.
We shoot 8 properties on the MLS every single day.
Yeah.
On the MLS in St. Louis. And sometimes more, but that's our, we have people that their job is write offers, analyze these deals every day. And there's some really good deals out there sitting on the MLS still today that you can buy,
right,
even in this competitive market.
I tell people that all the time. They don't believe it, but like my last, I don't know, because I also do, we haven't touched on it. I flip about 2 to 3 houses per year as well. And my last half dozen, I've bought straight off the MLS.
Yep. Yeah, they're out there. It's been an easy time to flip houses, but my fear is for the people sitting on a bunch, what's going to happen. And whenever this shifts, whatever happens. Right. I mean, we had Mark King on here 2 weeks ago, and his prediction is 24 months. He thinks in 24 months that the world's going to go on sale.
We haven't seen anything like this before, and probably never will again. The thing that I keep going back to is, from 2009 to 2020, the new home starts were so far behind the curve that we've got this gigantic deficit of homes available for sale in the US, right? And then double that with no one builds multifamily anymore, right? No one's building duplexes, triplexes, quads anymore.
Not like they used to.
That inventory is aging, and investors want them because it's the last way for people to house hack, right? So I don't know. It's hard. It's gonna, I don't like to make predictions, but just based on how the appetite for the millennial generation has become now to buy homes, and everything is so data driven, right? Everyone has all this data on their phone. Bigger Pockets is getting 250,000 downloads a week on their podcast. Like the amount of people who now this is like everyone's thought process now is like, oh, I'm going to buy a duplex. I'm going to buy a triplex. I'm going to live in it. Then I'm going to do it again. I'm going to do it in a year and a half later. I'm going to do it again.
Yeah. Because there's not that many of them around. Yeah,
exactly. It's a finite inventory.
Absolutely. So we ask everybody on here as we start to wrap up, if you could give yourself any advice 5 years ago, what would that piece of advice be?
5 years ago, what would my advice have been? It would have been listen to the people that were successful, that were doing this at a high level when I first got in the business, because I came in thinking, I'm going to do it my way. When I got in the business, I was 37, so I was a little stubborn, I guess, maybe. I thought, I'll do this my way, and I did okay. Like I said, 13 houses my first year. Most people don't do that. 28 houses by the end of year 2. It's pretty good. But I look back, and what I'm doing is I'm trying to the two gentlemen that we brought onto our team recently to take off some of this buyer pressure from us. I'm trying to now tell them, hey, these are the mistakes I made. Don't do it. Right? Don't do it. Just concentrate on generating leads. Like literally, that's all you got to do. The rest of it, you'll figure it out. But you need the deal flow.
And then one last question. If you're looking 5 years in advance, where do you want to go in 5 years? What do you want to do? What are you going to have done?
Yeah, 5 years. So we want to continue hitting this really hard over the next 5, actually probably 10 years for us, and just continue to acquire as many doors as we can per year. And then, start then moving away from it, honestly, building the team out, where we failed is, and Caleb, the admin is always that first person you should bring on, right? And we didn't do that. So we're kind of taking our licks and learning our lessons, but building the infrastructure to help us then kind of continue to catapult forward. Selling 100 houses a year is fine. I don't think I want to continue to do that. Honestly, I think I'd like to start being even more choosy on what the projects I elect to get involved in. And then also too, I've started shifting away to more larger multifamily as well. So I've got several commercial projects going.
Nice.
Yeah. So that's kind of me. You know, and like I said, my wife with the Florida thing, she really, you know, wants to get that rolling as well, and just something else that we can add to our, you know, to our clients, especially the investor side of the business, right? If people want to, you know, because that's where a lot of people from here, right, from Ohio, Michigan, I'm sure in Illinois, Missouri, they're looking to go south to the.
Oh yeah, everybody wants to go where it's not snowing.
Yep. So that's where, you know, we thought, okay, what else can we do? And I had too much stuff going on, and honestly, I didn't want to take another test, so. I said, Hey, you want to get your license down there? We both don't need to have our licenses down there.
We're a fiduciary, or not fiduciary. I can just go down there and get my license in Florida anytime. Reciprocal.
Reciprocity. They have reciprocity. We unfortunately don't have that in Ohio. Ohio's weird, man. They've got, you know, they say it's one of the hardest states to get your license in. I don't know if that's true or not, but, you know, she has to take the Florida state exam. And obviously she doesn't have to take the national exam again, but she had to take classes, which she was able to do online. And then she can take the test, you know, whenever she passed her courses. So
nice. Good for her. Anything else from you, Jim?
No, man, I appreciate you coming on.
No, yeah. I was so stoked that I got the invitation, and I know it was a couple months back, but yeah, just so thankful to have you guys on, you know, have me on, and, you know, able to share some knowledge and hopefully help some more people get off the couch and, you know, go make it through real estate. Cause honestly, it's, you know, it's really the way to build wealth in this country if you're not born into money.
Absolutely. So if someone wants to get a hold of you, Mike, send your referral, send you some business, buy a property in Cleveland, what's the best way to get in contact with you?
Honestly, probably email would be the best. My email is really simple. It's Michael. It's my first name, Michael, and it's at themagnogroup.com. So it's THEMAGNOGROUP.com. And on my website there, you can get my cell phone too. If you call me and leave me a message, I'll get back with you. But yeah, if you want to start a dialogue, please do. Feel free to, you know, shoot me an email, and we'll go from there.
Awesome. Yeah. Any of you guys thinking about Cleveland, send your business to Michael here. Thank you for sharing this knowledge with our group. We appreciate this time.
Okay, so that's a wrap today, guys. Once again, for additional resources, go to doorstodeals.com/086. If you need cash for funding in St. Louis, we can help you do that. If you're an agent trying to figure out this whole investing game out, or even need a deal saved, let us know. We can help you do that too. So don't forget, if you're out there on your own trying to figure out this whole investing game out, we help people just like you crush their fears and get to the next level, and we can help you too. So go out, live your purpose, and above all else, go after your dreams. Till next time.